Excellent. We're recording?
Yeah.
Beseder. Shalom Aleichem to everybody and a good morning. So first of all, I just want to thank Hakaras Hatov for the anonymous sponsor. He should have bracha, he should have mazel, and he should have atzlacha. And as well, Chasdei Hashem, something very special happened this week. We got an upgrade. We got an upgrade of, I don't know what it's called, a microphone. And the person that sent the message about the upgrade wishes to remain anonymous, but he sent a message and he knew I wasn't going to read it out, so Reb Simcha Yosef will read out.
Rabbi Gerzi, I hope you are well. I want to start by thanking you for putting up these talks on YouTube. They are absolutely wonderful, and in my own life, I'm already noticing tremendous change. I have donated these new recording microphones, and I wanted to share the story behind it. A few weeks ago, I went to visit one of the tzaddikim, someone you know who wishes to remain anonymous for now. I told him that you've been putting out these teachings, and he said, this is bringing the geula. Anything you can do to help him will bring you bracha. Around that time, I was facing a few personal challenges. When I saw the equipment you were using, I decided to purchase new microphones as an upgrade. Within just a few hours of making that decision and following through, the three situations I had been struggling with were suddenly mitigated. I hope that these microphones will be helpful in your continued work, and I'm very excited to keep listening and learning from your YouTube teachings. I know that you probably won't read this out yourself, but maybe you can give it to someone else to read. I believe it will mechazek es harabim, bring strength and encouragement to many. Thank you very, very much. YK, which we can say stands for Yasher Koach as well.
YK Yasher Koach, Chasdei Hashem. So Be'ezras Hashem will be If we can have I don't mind speaking in the kitchen if you want. Be'ezras Hashem, I'm hoping, like my inner wanting, and hopefully we really chap this, my inner wanting is definitely, and it should be our inner wanting, is to upgrade our lives. And this material is definitely a fascinating, unfolding path to getting to know yourself and really giving a way to open up to something bigger. I was speaking to somebody before, and one thing I really appreciate about him is that you can have an honest conversation, and the starting place of the conversation is to be bigger than the noise. It's to be bigger than the noise. And this is something that we've said time and time again, and this is something that deeply, deeply we need to own. We have to be bigger than the noise. And it's not difficult. We can be guided into it, but we have to have the conversations to take a person to be bigger than the noise. And what we find at first it's the national noise, the world of politics, the political noise. But then what happens is that slowly, being bigger than the noise starts to affect you in the important places in life. Being bigger than the noise starts to affect you as you are walking around and something annoys you outside. You're driving along and somebody comes in front of you, and sometimes you could be annoyed by that. So when we're speaking about being bigger than the noise, we've got the big national stuff, but then what happens? The real work starts. You could drive along, you could be taking a bus, you could be doing anything, and then outside of your family, so to speak, you are bigger than the noise. That, oh, okay, I can take it, I can be more tolerant, more compassionate, and then that comes in a little further. Say, for example, you're in yeshiva, say, for example, you're with your family. It could be something may happen, and then you could be bigger than the noise. You don't get owned. Your das doesn't, in a negative way, fall in the nefesh. But then within yourself, you could do things, and sometimes when you do things, you can annoy yourself, but then you could be that little bit more compassionate on yourself. It does not mean you are not growing. To be more compassionate on yourself, to be in a healthier relationship with yourself, does not mean you're not growing. People have this funny idea, sometimes only when I'm harsh on myself and I'm really beating myself up, I know that I'm growing. No, that's not always the case. A lot of the time when we learn to be compassionate on ourselves, we learn to be compassionate, we learn to hold ourselves in a healthy way and build a relationship, then we could start to make the deep changes. Just as we have to have compassion and tolerance, the Yud Gimel Midos Rachamim on the outside, we have to have them on the inside. Everything that's on the outside is as well within, because we're in Olam Katan. And we quoted a few times, we quoted yesterday we quoted, and a few other times. There's a beautiful Rabbi Yisrael Salant. Rabbi Yisrael Salant says in Chaya Musa, I think it's Sadi Dalad, page Sadi Dalad, he says as following. And this is, the Gra brings this and others bring this, but he says it, Rabbi Yisrael Salan says it in this particular way. Mistama, you probably know it. I haven't said it yet. The Nakuda, it goes as following, that on the outside, people are different. On the outside, people are different. And it's easy to see that. People look like this, people act like this, people come from this society, people are different. And we're okay with that. We accept that. That's like obvious, so obvious. But he writes inside, on the inside, you have so many different personalities. There are so many different parts, whether you want to speak a language of neshama, ruach, and nefesh, whether you want to speak a language of different midos, but you have many different voices within you, many different feelings within you, and those add up to different personalities within you. So what that in practice can be experienced as is that a person may be in a situation where they're 20 years old and they have a fear. In another situation, they're very courageous. What's the difference? So in the position of fear, when they were 4 years old, they had a fright and they became frozen. They have now a frozen experience in that particular age, from that particular age, that now every single time they go into that particular situation and scenario, they become a 4-year-old, they become a kid. And then in the other situation, which again could be another experience from within, they had a really good experience, they're very courageous. So within us we have multitudes of inner memories in different stages of life. And each memory that becomes a more active memory, each memory that becomes a more active memory that creates, so to speak, a trigger when we meet it, there's many of them within us. And Rabbi Singer, Zichron Livracha, Rabbi Singer would often say that in our avodah, in this generation, and it's not a weakness of our generation, it's a strength. It's a strength, it's not a weakness. It's far easier to be the dictator on ourselves. It's far easier, it takes far less wisdom to come down harsh on yourself. It takes far, far less wisdom to come down and be critical on yourself. Remember the friends, criticism, cynicism, skepticism. Those friends, it's far easier for them to be awake and attack. Far easier. And it's far more difficult to be wise. It's far more difficult to be the educator, to really connect yourself in a healthy way. But what we see time and time again, what we hear and what we experience time and time again, is that when we can have a better relationship with ourselves, when we can have more understanding, it's far quicker and it's far easier to hold what's going on and to make those changes. And again, for a lot of people, this may be very foreign. I remember when I came from the world I came with, this was very foreign. I went through yeshiva, I didn't hear a language like this. My yeshiva, Baruch HaShem, my yeshivas were brilliant. Chazde Hashem, yeshiva for me was an absolutely wonderful place with the rabbonim that I have. Chazde Hashem, and there needs to be a further curiosity which comes from you, because a person could live a whole life, and if we don't think deeper thoughts, and if we don't have these conversations, if we don't look at the world where we are today, it's not like the stories of once upon a time. It's not like the stories. Every single generation, as we've said time and time again, has its fixings, has its tikkunim. Through speaking to different tzaddikim, we have articulated 4 tikkunim, 4 fixings, things that we have to place our attention on as we look out at the world for the foreseeable future, mental and physical health. We have to work on that, build that. Hod, Netzach, and Yesod, which we can translate as gratitude, hope, and resilience. That's the next tikkun. If you feel good with those 2 things, then it's far easier to have achdas. People speak about achdas, collaboration and contribution and collaboration. When your neurology is calm, and when you are more thankful, you have hope, and you're more resilient, your natural output is you realize, wow, I've got a lot to give. And it's not gaiva to say that, and I can relate to myself, I can relate to others. And the 4th, after contribution and collaboration, is the fact that we live in a beautiful physical world, and we want to elevate this physical world. Physicality is not a prison. Physicality is an opportunity. And we mentioned Yeridas HaDoros when we're speaking about Yeridas HaDoros. Yeridas HaDoros is a opportunity to bring around divine intelligence, to bring around the Creator to every layer and level of physicality. And that's our job today. We know that. The Sfarim HaKadoshim explain this, that we want to bring the light of Creator. Listen, we're heading towards Hanukkah. What's Hanukkah about? It's bringing the light of the Creator to every single area. And the Bir Nitzaisis Kedusha, the excavation, gathering, and elevation of these sparks in order to come to a completion, which we call the redemption, whatever we want to call it, whatever it means. It involves the ability for us to meet every single situation, whatever it is, the darkness, the light, but with a certain consciousness in order to, again, the natural consequence behind the scenes is excavating, gathering, and then again, it's something I can't necessarily explain in words, but the metzius of there's an elevation that's going, there's something that's changing, there's something that's happening. And on a certain respect, I say this again, it's when I say something, usually it's backed up with Makoros. I'm not going into the Makoros now, but there's no knight in shining armor coming to save you. We have to take responsibility. So that's why I said it the way I said it. There's no knight in shining armor coming to save us. We have to take responsibility. That's our door. Our door is the generation of taking responsibility. We have to be our own leaders with humility, with proper dignity and respect. We are in the hardest generation, so to speak, because there's such an overwhelm of information. That's one of the biggest nakudas. There's such an overwhelm of information. There's a lot to talk about, which I'm not going into now. But what we are saying is that it's a frightening generation. But when we can work together with the ingredients, the Abrahamic ingredients, which we translate, again, the Abrahamic vision is what knocks off the Erev Rav vision, and it's built on conversations with different tzaddikim. So we use this term, Abrahamic vision, in English: caring, sharing, supporting, and encouraging with good firm boundaries. We know the ingredients, and it's not always so straightforward. But when we work on our healing, and with whatever way we can manifest this, Asela Harav, we have somebody or a few people. I mentioned before that once I asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky about having a rebbe, so it's Asela Harav. So Asela Harav is, we have to have one Rav, can you have more than one Rav? To which Chaim responded, we don't live in a generation where we have like a Vilna Gaon, everything's wrapped up in one. So you have to go to the experts in specific fields, but the main point is to build long-term, intimate relationships, to have accountability, that someone sees you day in, day out. Again, consistency doesn't lie. And you are humble enough to allow them to call you out and to come down on you like a ton of bricks. It's okay. It's for another conversation. But long-term, deep, intimate relationship where somebody respects you, somebody loves you, someone gives you that space. It's really an avodah today. That's under attack as well. It's an avodah, but that's why it's called an avodah. We were born to toil. The basic, you open up a Shulchan Aruch, tick off in the Shulchan Aruch, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Am I doing the other? So just as an introduction, as we go into this text, we need to be bigger than the noise and to remind ourselves of the basic tenets that we should be living with as Bnei Yisrael. Coming to a space of wholesomeness within ourselves, which will gift me the ability to have wholesomeness with others. And we spread that light. So, yes, sir.
You spoke about having compassion on the process, and being how having compassion requires greater wisdom than being stringent. And I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about perfectionism in context of keeping the halakha, and this kind of like, there's a feeling that like I have to do all of the halakha or I'm not like a kosher Jew.
Amazing question.
What does it mean to be in process with that chiyuv, as it were, that din? There's a lot of din there, and it's like, you need to do this to be a Jew. And I feel like there's process where a person could be doing one thing at a time and be very kosher, very holy Jew, but maybe like, is there any explicit Torah that we can draw from to encourage that approach? Or are we, because I feel like the standard thing that I get from most rabbis is, it's all or nothing. Like you either keep all the Torah and you're kosher or you don't, and like you're out.
So if I could repeat that question, if I'm misrepresenting you, throw the table or stender at me. Palmer will help you. He wants to. So, okay. Yeah, you'll help him? Yeah. Good, okay. So what I just heard is that there is a situation where a person may come to think, because they've heard things from others, that in order to be a kosher yid, you have to be keeping everything all at the same time at the highest standards. So I can just share with you what my teacher said. I'll share with you the Biala Rebbe's approach, Zichron Livracha, Dain Lopian's approach, Zichron Livracha. These are the two Rabbonim that really knock this into me. Tachlis is that we're not asked to be perfect. We're not asked to be perfect. We're asked to work on ourselves. And with proper friends around you, with being in a proper community, with having a rebbe, having these wisdom teachings, you somehow find your way. The reality of a cerebral communication is not the practicality of how we actually live. So a person may say something, and from a cerebral perspective, oh, this is true, we should be keeping da-da-da-da-da. But the actuality of it is that we don't work like that. And there's this balancing act where we try our best. And what I would say, even what you're speaking about, is when we are within the ego self. When we have the proper guidance and we're bigger than the noise, when we can come into this state of das, when we can come to the silence and stillness behind the noise and animation, what you will find is that you can be more compassionate on yourself. And you can push yourself and you get to know yourself. So if I'm pushing myself but it's going to lead to distraction, I have to speak to my teacher. I have to be able to assess within myself if I can't get hold of my teacher, and we have to make a choice. We use our seichel, we use our bechira, but the point is what we can share now, and whatever this word means, it's loaded. We want to be healthy. That means we want to be pushing ourselves. I want to be able to open up the Shulchan Aruch, and I want to be able to tick off every din to the best of my ability, at least to read it, at least to visit it. And I want to realize that we live in a complex world, and the human experience, as we've said time and time again, is really complex. The human experience is very, very complex. But the architecture of the soul is very simple. We are all the same. We all work the same way. We are all the same. No one's different. We're all the same. What makes us different is the content and experiences of our life. But again, that's content. That's content. That's all to do with content.
I think that's what makes us different.
The nurture and your actual experiences. The way you were brought up, where you were brought up, that's all to do with content. Everybody has what we call the nefesh, however we're translating it. Everyone has a ruach, however we're translating it. Everybody has a neshama, however we're translating it. That's the structure. The experience that we go through from day to day, where I was brought up, the experiences that I've had, my likes, my dislikes, my wants, my needs, that's content. That differs from person to person. But what we want is to be able to come beyond the noise. We don't want to be trapped in the noise. The noise we are defining here as being stuck within the nefesh. I think I am my thoughts, feelings and physical sensations. And what we are saying in the first and second parak here is that there's a world behind that. We want to be higher, so to speak, or deeper, whatever language we use, but it's not to be imprisoned by our thoughts, feelings and physical sensations. That as well means, in the language of the Baal Shem Tov, Keser Shem Tov Kaf Chet Bet, Hachnan Havdalah. Hachnan Havdalah. There's a natural hamtaka that occurs. I can pull back and I can even be aware while I'm in an experience of anxiety that, I'm experiencing anxiety right now and I know I'm not the anxiety. That already is very special. That already is a saving grace on a certain respect. And through practice and through conversation, maybe more and more we can become aware and then get into a state of das where we're non-judgmental, which is shavisi, hishtava, shavisi. So what that would be experienced as I can experience Yishuv Hadas. I can be in a state of Yishuv Hadas, which is, let's just say right now, Shavisi HaShem lenegdi tamid. But again, the HaShem needs to be understood. But Hishtavus, I could be in a state of Yishuv Hadas, yet I may not have Menuchas HaNefesh. You have the diuk here? I could be in a state of Yishuv Hadas. I'm calm inside, but I'm not calm inside. And that's a nakuda of Hachnan Havdalah. And eventually, when, for example, when we are really working on ourselves and developing ourselves, and it could be through breath work, I breathe in Hashem and I shine Hashem into, let's just use the term parts. So I breathe in Ein Sof, hold it for a moment, then I choose deliberately to shine it, the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whatever I'm being mitlabesh, this light with, I shine it onto that part. And it could be that anxiety, that stress, or whatever I may be experiencing may melt away. But that's up to Hashem. That's not up to you. You have to do your hishtadlus. You have to do your hishtadlus. So perfection is as well, on a certain respect, control. That nakuda of control is coming from the nefesh. Does that speak? Control in general. Perfection is a nakuda of control.
Rav Singer spoke about not being trapped in that.
Correct. Not being, Rabbi Singer would speak about the Biala Rebbe, they would speak about not being trapped in your own levels of control for perfection. Sometimes perfection could be a fear of completing something, a fear of success. We don't know. There's layers and layers and layers under one particular midah. And then you have many different midos. There's the horizontal nefesh, and then there's the vertical nefesh. The horizontal nefesh is what's on the forefront. What do I consciously experience in the present moment that I'm aware of? This, and this, and this. But then you've got layers. You've got all of these different, again, parts, if you want to call it midos. And ultimately, we want to be in a relationship with Ein Sof. We want to be in a relationship with the Creator.
But how do we be in a relationship with the halacha?
No, so that's the point. 1 second. Let me finish. So let me finish my sentence. Let me finish my sentence. You're good. Thank you. So I don't need to repeat that because I'm about to go there. We want to be in a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We want to be in a relationship with Ein Sof. And how does Hashem tell me to be in a relationship with Hashem, with the Creator? Every relationship has boundaries. Torah is Hashem's boundaries. Halacha is Hashem's boundaries. Now, when you are in love with somebody, and there's an energy. So, my wife will tell me, I don't know if I ever did this, if she was here, maybe she'll say it's not true, but maybe, I'd like to imagine that when we first got married and she said, take out the rubbish, I would dance. Oh, what an opportunity, I'll dance to take out the rubbish, amazing. Then, as time goes on and you get used to each other, which is not good, and you never want to be used to each other. So then take out the rubbish, okay, I'll take out the rubbish. And then after, a couple of kids and you're exhausted, take out the rubbish. Well, can't the kids take out the rubbish? What do you think we brought them into the world for? They're our slaves, our white slaves, our whatever, that's what my father calls us. So the point is that they can take it out. Like, what happened to that? The energy shifted. The energy changed. And what we want is to realize Hashem is Baruch. Hashem is Baruch. Every relationship has boundaries. Hashem is Baruch shared with us his boundaries. I don't have to understand why. I need to constantly be in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as the Shla writes. Rav Kook was very, very machmir. I was zoichet to learn with several Talmidim of Rav Kook. And Rav Kook was very machmir. You see pictures of Rav Kook. He's wearing a rekel, a bekeshe, he wore a bekeshe, wore spoduk. And he went to mikveh several times a day. He was very makpid on kedusha and tahara, and he was very machmir and halacha. When it came to other people, he assessed the person where they were. But typically, he was very machmir on himself. So one of his Talmidim, I once asked, I said, I don't understand. People don't necessarily have that view of Rav Kook, that he was so, like the world that represents him is not necessarily so makpid on sneers, kedusha, and tahara at times. There's certain demographics that don't necessarily represent that in the world of Rav Kook. And I know I'm saying something which is quite strong now, so forgive me. That's what I asked. And he said, listen, Rav Kook though, I can't speak to the world, but Rav Kook was very, very makpid. He was very machmir, and very much with kedusha and tahara. I saw Rav Kook went to the mikveh several times a day. Several times a day. When he made a bracha, everything froze. There was nothing. There was no, like when he made a bracha, everything stopped. Time stopped. I felt that when he made a bracha, Sha'akolni Bidvar, time stopped. Everything stopped. And the reason being, it was based on the shla, that if you're so in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the only thing you could do more than the poshet pshat halacha chumras. I could do chumras. That's. I could show you HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The only way I could show you how much I love you is taking on every chumrah under the sun. Because I'm madly in love with you and I want to be able to be deeply in touch with you. Why? Because every boundary, every relationship has boundaries. I don't need to know why. So when I'm learning a diuk in a Rashi of a vav, why did Rashi put that vav there? Either I can say, this is meaningless to me. Like, why am I so bothered about the vav? Who cares about the vav of Rashi? But if it's because my lover appreciates it, this vav becomes everything in the world.
But if there's dissonance in the relationship...
So again, now we're going back to what we said. Health. You have to build towards it. This is exactly what we're saying. Healing. That's why you have to have achsel harav. You have to be able to know how to hold that. But the metzius is that vav becomes the deepest trigger of the most intense love between me and the Creator. And that's how we should learn Torah. That's how we should daven. And again, we're not necessarily educated into it. When I teach in different yeshivas, I hear very often, I don't understand this, it's not relevant to me. And depending on who it is, but say for example, I've known the person for a long time, I'll say, stop being an egocentric mashigana. It's not about you. No one cares about you. It's about the relationship. Do you care for the relationship or not? Now again, I've known them for some time, and they'll look at me and they'll go, yeah, it's about the relationship. I know this makes the other happy. I have to choose to be in the relationship. If I choose to be in the relationship, it doesn't matter what is good for me. Just as that person will do for me, and it doesn't matter what is good for them in regards to me, it doesn't matter what's good for me in conjunction to them. I love them. I want to do everything I can to bring around a deeper, more mature, long-term, healthier love. And the language that we're speaking, if we're caught up in the nefesh, if we don't know there's going beneath, if we don't know that there is a behind, a place of stillness and silence where we can start to cultivate and have this communication to heal, then it's very difficult. And we live in a generation where, I hear very often, and it's no one's fault, I'll only do the mitzvah when I understand what the mitzvah is. So it's just another tool of being selfish. Now there's nothing wrong with that because no one's shown them anything else. So when, for example, whether it was Rabbi Singh or the Biala Rebbe, they said that you want to be makpid for a couple of different reasons. One reason is because you want to protect yourself from something, but the other reason is because you're madly and deeply in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu has asked us to learn HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah, the Creator's Torah, to keep the halachas. And it's a practice. It's a practice of a universal, long-term, deep, intimate relationship. And it takes time to get that because we are very hurt. So many people are very, very hurt. When people speak about sneers, I speak to so many Beis Yaakov mummies that they themselves went to Beis Yaakov and they're hurt. When I speak to, the guys and they have their own experiences, people have their experiences and there's a healing. When I speak to a world, we're hurting. We've been in exile for a long time.
Extreme dynamic of relationship where I say, it doesn't matter what I feel or like, I'm doing this for the other person. That's one extreme. A healthy relationship should be, it also matters what I feel and like.
Of course.
And I also care about the other person.
Of course. Of course. So I'm bringing one extreme, but of course what you're saying, and that's why in a relationship you have a rebbe, in a relationship you have somebody you can speak to, you have friends you can speak to, and you find that place. You find that place that works. And it takes time, but it needs to be done in a Masorah Dika Mizgeret. People are very quick to throw away the Masorah. There's a lot of good people with Messiah out there, Talmidim of Reb Moshe, Talmidim of Reb Moshe, Talmidim of Reb Yusha Ber Soloveitchik. There's so many good people. Are you prepared to do the work and hunt them and find them out? I was lucky. I was very, very lucky because I basically, I didn't have to work so hard. I adopted my father's teacher. That was it. My father's rebbe was a Biala Rebbe, and I guess my father, he's got such a nav. I remember there's a Talmud of Rav Dessler, who we were very close to, and I believe it was his rebbe, Rabbi David Cooper in London. And my father, Rabbi Cooper would always laugh at my father because my father would say, Rabbi, give me the simple halacha, don't give me the chumrah. This is where I'm holding right now, give me. And Rabbi Cooper loved my father. And I'll never forget when I'd go to my father, and I said when I was much older, a teenager, and I said to my father, I don't understand. I'm coming back from yeshiva, and you'd always say to Rabbi Cooper, give me the simple halacha, don't give me the machmir halacha. And I was with you. Don't you think that impacted me? And he says, of course, why do I think I brought you? So, what were you trying to teach me? That you can have a relationship with a teacher where you can be open and vulnerable and share where you are and get the advice that's needed for you to connect to Torah, to connect to HaShem.
Is someone allowed to say that the halacha is too much for them and they put it in?
So that takes a posek, and Torah is wise. Torah is wise. Through the halachic discourse with Gedolei Torah, with Talmidei Chachamim, a person can figure out what they are to do in any particular situation. However, it comes down to being bigger than the noise. That's what it comes down to. And to have proper guidance and proper friends, the Torah is brilliant. The Torah right now in my life still has never let me down. It hurts at times. It hurts. And it's a struggle. But that's the premise of life on a certain respect. We are going to struggle. The question is not, I should have a life of no struggle. No, how do I hold that struggle? And how do we hold this struggle? By a position of being bigger than the noise. Yes?
Is the goal to transcend the ego, to transcend our experiences?
The goal is having the ability to have available to you to transcend the noise. We're never in one fixed state. We're always oscillating between the nefesh and hopefully the neshama. We're never in one fixed state. We are freeze framing an education process, which is moving, it's malleable. We're freeze framing for the sake of education, a moving dynamic process. So we're never in one state. I'm going to be in a state where I fall. But Torah is not afraid of falling. The question of Torah is how quickly, and this is a metric of what we call, I'm just using this language, and again, every word we use has nuance. How spiritual are you? So a metric of ruchnius is number one, how quickly after a fall you can come back to a place of das, and how quickly after a fall you can come back to a place of das and say thank you. Say thank you that it happened, I've learned something from it. That's like one spiritual metric. We have a few spiritual metrics because people say ruchnius, a part of ruchnius is how authentic I am in how I make a bracha, how present I am, how authentic I am with halacha, how consistent I am. They are elements to do with ruchnius. But again, you're speaking to the deepest parts of the human experience, and especially being in exile for such a long time. And we are hashkafically homeless. So many people today, so many people are hashkafically homeless. And we have to, and we can regain and reintegrate in a healthy way. But we're always oscillating between different places. It's never fixed.
Other religions emphasize the ego death. That's their only spirituality. It's like, it's extreme, free shoot, and
Yes.
purity culture.
Yes.
That's where you're spiritual. It's only
Yes.
I don't feel like
That's nothing. What was just said is other religions, and again, in the context of other religions, is a big subject, but spirituality is marked, is tagged by ego death. We don't want to kill the ego, we like the nefesh. The nefesh actually is the only place where the worlds meet. It's the only place. Olam Shana Nefesh, as the Sefer Yetzirah in 6.1 explains. It's the only place where we have to connect the higher, the lower, the in and the out. We want to refine it. We want to work with it. Last couple of questions, and then we're going into the text. Yes?
Is being above the noise hefkerus, or is it allowing it, or is it just holding space for it and allowing it to be? Or?
It's not hefkerus as well. It's not hefkerus as well. The question was being louder than the noise. Is it hefkerus? Is it hefker? It's not at all.
Being above the noise.
Being above the noise. Is it hefkerus? Not at all.
It's like
Being above the noise is not. It's holding it.
So it's like knowing the politics and
Yes.
just being above it?
Yeah, or not even knowing the politics. In my life, in my daladamos, I don't need to know the politics. In my daladamos, I need to concentrate on.
Is that a bechina of hefkerus, though?
No, it's a bechina of. It's not a matter of not caring. It's a matter of that's not going to get me closer to my goal of being Tzelem Elokim. That's not going to get me closer to my goal of being Bal Ruach HaKodesh Shenavua. Why is Bal Ruach HaKodesh Shenavua important? Because it gives me a certain clarity in how to act in the present moment with Be'ezras Hashem, the neshama. I hear the world of the neshama. When I'm clearer inside, in the present moment, I can ask, okay, what's my next action? It's Nakud of Ruach HaKodesh. Nakud of Ruach HaKodesh is insight. If you look at the Rambam and other places, one of the first levels of Ruach HaKodesh, the Gra, we've mentioned a number of times on Mishlei Kaf base. We've mentioned this. It's insight. That insight gives me the availability to hopefully make a better, not the best, not the most perfect, but a better choice in the moment. In the moment. And what do I need to concentrate in my life, the structure of what I need to concentrate on? It's very simple. There's only, mamash, 12, 13 areas: physical and mental health, physical and financial health, my relationships. I need to concentrate on filling my mind with good information, being creative, and I have to have what's called, or I have to speak to what's called a mentor, mentorship, and spirituality, the Arbi Yisaidus. So it comes down, in the Derech of Avodah that we're painting out here, it comes down always to the same fundamentals. But what happens, like you've just done now, and I appreciate as a group here, online, we have questions, we ask questions. This was my short introduction to get into the text, by the way.
Yeah.
Explain that. But as I said, what I think the unfolding of this, which is new to me in this setting, as I said, we never learned these texts, so to speak, in this sort of setting. There is an unfolding. And I think the unfolding right now, we were discussing this every week, by the way. Pretty much every week, I ask certain people here who know me and I know them, how can we make this better? So last week, it was start with the text, don't give such a long introduction, and then do the text. So we've done that today. But the point is, what did we say? Hagdamas Shabbatay Hagdamas, as Rabbi Nachman says, that this Shiur is obviously a more it's not advanced, and it's not basic. So we went on a journey today, which is probably a very important journey, because when someone says something, all that's going to happen, it will give us a deeper insight. And what we have to get used to, and what I have to get used to and let go of my expectations and assumptions, is that in this setting here, right now, we're going to give, I guess, hagdamas, and it's in my mind to go into the text. But hopefully, whether we start with the text, which I wanted to do today, that was my kavana. But the nakuda is this is part. This is part of the process, though. But this is the nakuda. This is the real-time process. We're doing what the wisdom teachings are sharing with us to do. It's something important. So with that, let's take a stab at this. We started last week. I'm going to read through it quickly, what we did last week, and then we'll go weiter. And Be'ezras Hashem, as we said, week by week, it's listening to the same information given over in different ways. And I want to iterate that. This isn't for everybody. Some people don't have the patience for this, and that's okay. This isn't preaching This
What about
isn't.
their soul? You gotta save their soul.
We don't have to save anybody's soul. You just have to turn up and see what happens. No one's saving anybody's soul. Yeah, yeah. It's kapshutai. So tachlis is we want to be bigger than the noise. We've just given a hagdama, which again fundamentals around this idea coming from different angles to create more conscious competency and communication around these ideas, and maybe somebody else will say something and it will click. I could say something 1,000 times and it's not heard. And then someone says something in 30 seconds and it's like, oh wow, that's what he's been saying for the last 8 years? Oh, but that's the truth. That's the truth. That's the nakuda of humility. That's the nakuda of wisdom. It's together. It's together. No one has one full answer to give. It's together we work it out, especially today. So this is where we're up to. And we started this last week, and I'm just reading through it to give context. It is our inheritance to attune. Das is, page 15. Das is and should be our natural state of being, a steady stillness and silence that witnesses the dynamic noise of our physical sensations, emotions, and fleeting thoughts. The noise is not bad. The noise is not bad. Please understand this. The noise is just what is. It's not bad. The interpretation of the noise comes from us and how we choose to relate to it, deliberately thinking and being aware. It's not bad. We want to be living from a state of das, where we have remembered to peel back or to let go of the layers, the levushim, to connect more to the core of our Ein Sof. This place is behind the animation we know, a place of stillness and silence that is always there. Being in a state of das, by definition, disassociates a person from the material, lowly aspect of life, such as basic instincts, emotional reactions, and fleeting thoughts. HaShem did not create this world for us to avoid, disconnect, or escape it into the perpetual state of das. So HaShem didn't create a world where we're to escape and just be in a state of das always. Rather, to engage and elevate the material world by infusing it with the spiritual. That is why we cannot live in this state while we are in this world. As the Maranaim writes on Parashas Yisro, we are never in one state. So this is speaking to what you asked. So speaking to what you are, we're never in one state, and we have to learn to appreciate that. Right now we are freeze-framing a process. We're freeze-framing a moving, malleable, changing, dynamic process in order to create conversation, to have insight into how we work, and then through that, hopefully living better. We can catch ourselves more. Tikkun Hamidais. This is Tikkun Hamidais. When we pull away from the noise to remember that we are spiritual beings having a direct, when we could pull back from the noise to remember, that we are spiritual beings with a direct line of communication to a higher wisdom, having a physical experience, this is what is meant by living from a place of das. Living from this place of silence lends the availability to hear the baskol and experience flashes of godliness with which we can upgrade our day-to-day experience. So this nakuda of having the ability to recognize how we work, recognizing that I'm not my nefesh, but obviously the nefesh is part of me, so when I can enter a state, and that state, as I'm walking around, as I'm doing my normative things, that state of quiet, even if it's a little bit more quiet, you turn down the internal volume just a little bit to experience a menuchas hanefesh. By definition, again, it's like, it's automatic. You can generate insight. Insight is gifted to you. Not that it wasn't there before. Insight is gifted to you that you hear the baskol. You hear the baskol, you hear it. And the nakuda, just one interpretation, when we're speaking about neshama, ruach, and nefesh, maybe we'll show this next week, but neshama, within neshama is chokhmah and bina. Chokhmah is that flash, bina is whether I follow that flash or not. People interpret bina differently, but bina is the lave. So a person can have an idea, but how many flashes do we have of ideas? I can probably guess we're having lots of them. But how do you know if you are to follow it or not? How do you know if it's real? Because there's something inside of you that tells you this is something. There's the bina. The bina is the lave. The bina is that you have some sort of hargasha. You have some sort of hargasha. Oh, like even in the sense of, I have a flash. Oh, there's some sort of internal flash of bina. Some people explain chokhmah, the flash, and then bina is opening it up. There's truth to that, but another dynamic where within our system, bina is that that experiential is bina. Then das is you've received it, and then chesed and gevura is an akuda of dimyon. Chesed is an aspect of dimyon. Gevura is an aspect of machshava. So now you kick in the dimyon and the machshava. You think about it, you reflect upon it, and you bring it down the whole system. Which again, this is based on in this iteration of the system. Yes?
If Daat is our essential place to live from, if like we're calling it like a retethering to ourselves, then why would it be described as an avoidance or disconnecting or an escape from the world if it's really where we want to be? If it's a retethering to our natural selves?
Because you're asking a brilliant question. Why is it a disconnection? Why is das? Because by nature, das, all das is by nature, according to the shita we're following, and according to different makairos, das is observation. By definition, do you remember in the journey begins, if I can observe it, I'm not it. So that's hachna and havdalah. So we're speaking about a fact. That fact could be interpreted as, we're speaking about the fact. It just is. By definition, I separate. By definition, I become aware of, I'm not it. Now what do I do with it? Do I retether and reconnect? Or do I suppress, etc., etc.? Does that speak to what you asked?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the disconnect is you.
Say that again, please.
The separation allows you to have bechira.
The separation allows you to have bechira and to distinguish.
There's no space. It's an
Okay.
impulse that takes you over.
If there's no space, something that takes you over. Correct. Yes. Yes.
The way it's, I'm sorry,
Sorry.
is he finished?
I don't know. Yeah? Okay. Yes.
The way I'm picturing it now, almost, from the way the rebbe's speaking about it, is almost like the difference between a knot in string and a braid of strings.
Interesting.
That we can't separate fully from our nefesh and our ruach and our neshama. We can't pull them apart completely. But if they're entangled and we don't know what belongs where, which is part ruach, which part is nefesh, which part is neshama, that's when we don't have any clarity.
That's Tikkun Hamidos, yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
we need to separate and plate it back together in a structured, clear, where we can see the distinction between nefesh, ruach, and neshama, and they're going to be intertwined, but they're not going to be tangled together. We can distinguish between them, but you use them
Wonderful.
alone.
Wonderful.
As
The
John
analogy,
said.
the moshel that was just given in case it wasn't heard, was that you can have a piece of string. In the piece of string, you can have a knot. The knot is a knot. It's all clumped together. But then we have the same piece of string and you can create a braid out of it. A braid. And a braid is a organized knot. You're not running away. You are organizing, you are distinguishing, you're making something mesudar. And this is what we're saying here. There's no ego death from the perspective of, I'm nothing to do with it. No, I need to interact. A calling of us, an invitation of us is to be a merkava, to shine Hashem's light through us into the world, living with Torah, living with halacha, living with kedusha and tahara. We take what could be a knot and we make a braid out of it. Thank you. Beautiful. Das is an experience we truly cannot explain in words. because words are automatically limiting and representative, masking the true essence. This nakuda is a very important nakuda, and at some point I'll bring in from another text to explain this in far great depth, because this is very much relating, the whole world is a mask. The whole world is a levush. And as Am Yisrael, we don't run away from the levushim. We use them, we integrate with them, but in Hashem's way. In Hashem's way. It is best...
People cannot understand what Daat is with words itself unless they know what experience is already, then the words help.
It's very difficult, correct, because the words just guide us. Words are also a lavush. Words can imprison us the moment we open up our mouth. I think we say this here. In a couple of pages. And at the end of the day, we said from Rabbi Nachman last week that the metzius of part of our existence is very lonely. It's very, very lonely. It will be very lonely, and that's okay. That existential loneliness is part of our experience. There's nothing I can share with certain parts of myself, even to myself. For a moment, I may have a flash of understanding, but then it could very easily dissipate, and the next day, I don't even remember. It's like having a dream. I know in my dream I remember that dream, and then I wake up, and it's gone, and that's okay. That's okay, that's part of this Avodah. It is best illustrated through levushim, such as the following analogy. A farmer, okay, this is a moshel here. It's best illustrated through levushim. So we're dealing with levushim, such as the following analogy. A moshel is a levush. A moshel is a levush. I use a moshel, this is based on the world of Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Chalap. In his Perish on Mishlei, at the beginning, he speaks about this inyan of moshel and nimshol. We're always relating to mashalim, we're always relating to levushim. Even in our speech is a vehicle to express something. The better command we have of language, the better we could express. So we're now going to give over an analogy, a moshel. A farmer spent the day meticulously cleaning his barn. And when he checked his wrist at the end of his work, he realized that he had lost his prized watch while cleaning. The watch, I don't know if it says it here, but the watch was his grandfather's watch, and it was very special to him, and somehow he lost his watch. He saw a group of local children walking by and promised them whoever finds the watch will be rewarded with a bar of chocolate. The children spent hours searching, overturning the neat bales of hay, moving everything out of place, experimenting with the rakes and shovels, and making a mess of the newly tidied barn. When the sun went down after hours of searching, the children accepted defeat. But the kind farmer handed out the chocolate to each child. They walked past him as they walked home, as they headed home. One boy continued to stand nearby, sucking his chocolate and thinking, until all the others had left. When only he remained, I'm going to say this outside because I'm butchering it. When only he remained, he turned to the farmer and he says to the farmer, can I go in and look for your watch? And the farmer turns around and says, how are you going to look for the watch? It's dark now. Like, why? Forget it. I've got no space for this. Please, I've got no more chocolate to give you. Please just go home. And the kid says, no, let me have a look. So what happens? The kid goes in. And then all of a sudden, about 10 minutes later, he comes out and he's holding the watch. Now you had 6, 7 kids looking for the watch the whole time. It was daylight. And they used the rakes. They turned the whole place up and they didn't find the watch. And here you have this one kid, dark, pitch black. He goes in 10 minutes later, he comes out with the wristwatch. So the farmer says, what happened? The young boy went in, as he said to the farmer, and he thought to himself, what can I do now? He fell to his knees and he started off by just listening. And he scanned the messy room, which was now calming down. And then he caught tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. He followed the TikTok, it became louder and louder. He put his hand into a pile of bale, moved it around, and found the watch. That's one moshel. There's another moshel which I don't think is here, and I'm going to share it. Somebody could read ahead, but the other moshel is a very important moshel as well. Yes. It is here?
Maybe later, but it's here.
Yeah, it's here. So what-
Okay. So the point here,
Waves.
pardon?
Waves.
Not the waves. The moshel with the man trying to get in the pond.
Yeah, it's here.
Okay, so the point here is that the tick-tock is always tick-tocking. The bus call is always calling out. The bus call is always calling out. Question is, can I hear it or not? Am I listening? When I'm in my experience, when I'm fully immersed in my experience, it's not easy. It isn't easy. When I can pull out of my experience, even for a moment, and I can hear that bus call, I can hear that tick-tock, and I can make better decisions in the present moment. And that's beautiful. And the vessel in order to do that is what we call das. And das is having the ability just to rise above the noise, the animation. So, I'm going to read from here. This is page 16. The watch had been ticking the whole time, communicating its location with anyone who can hear it, just as the bus call calls out every day. The children made things more complicated than necessary, digging through all the straw, hurling things back and forth, and trying out different gadgets, just as we tend to seek systems, exercise our capacity to invest in tools, to search, to reach our potential. We must learn to let go of the illusion of productivity and instead to create an environment of stillness and silence in which one can hope to hear the messages. We should keep in mind that all the tools that we use are really only effective as our level of consciousness, Daat, in which we harness them. So we have all of these tools. We want to make sure as we use the tools, we are functioning from a place of stillness and silence, that we are the balabais of the tools, and the tools are not what we think is our saving grace. The tools are not what we think is our saving grace. The tools are helpful as long as we can manage and work with the tools. And Chasdei Hashem, we live in a generation where there's so many productivity tools today. Everybody's trying to sell productivity tools. And the productivity tools are only as helpful as your state of consciousness.
With Tikkun Amidos.
With Tikkun Amidos, yes.
Is that true?
Yeah. Life is full of noise, yet the deep, consistent silence of Daat is always there, providing a space in which we can hear a higher communication through the bus call. The self, the witness, can only be experienced in silent, steady state. And it is only when we allow the self to steer our attention away from the noise of this physical world that we can hear the rhythm of the spiritual world. Das is a constant. We cannot live in it. We must live from it. This consciousness has always been there. It does not have a beginning. It is, and it always will be there. It does not have an end. Our job is to remember that it is there and come to meet that which is a natural place to live. Infinite, eternal, immeasurable, immortal consciousness and fullness. Any human being can experience this organically and serenely. Tachlis, again, I don't want to fool anybody. It takes effort, it takes communication. It's not just like, sometimes it is, Yeshuas Hashem ke'eref ein. It takes work, and it's to be around an environment where we're being reminded. An important nakuda is to remember, Amalek wants us to forget. Das is remembering. Amalek wants us to forget. What does Amalek want us to forget? What does the Erev Rav want us to forget? That our place of being in this world should be from a place of das. Stillness and silence. It's to know there is a place behind the animation, and recognize in different words, as we've said before, I'm relating to my thinking in the present moment. I'm relating to my emotions in the present moment. I'm relating to my physical sensations in the present moment. But I'm not them. They are part of me and they're an important part of me. I'm behind all of that. I could witness all of that. This truly is our inheritance. It is from this place that the Torah was given to us on Har Sinai, as the start of our journey and the message to our world. HaShem gifts us an experience of Daat as we stood around Har Sinai. And only after we built our own, and what's this saying? Only after we built our own acquisition of this state during the 40 years of wandering, we can claim it as ours and transmit it to further generations. So this nakuda is a very important nakuda. So we have Makoros, Gemara Kedushin, Torah should lead you to Daat. Torah should lead you to Daat. When we are talking about Torah and Halacha, the starting place, even within Torah, is coming from a place of Daat. The Gemara in Adarm tells us, and Vayik Rabbah tells us, about Daat being the most fundamental part of life as we live this life. A Talmid Chacham without Daat is like a corpse. Why are they like a corpse? Because they're not transmitting the human architecture that we're meant to be living by as we live.
Doesn't halacha do that on its own? Automatically, when a person learns halacha, then he'll see, in the morning, am I washing my hands?
Correct. That's the point that we're trying.
It's
It's meant to. If you learn Torah sincerely, if you learn halacha sincerely, for sure, it's awakening your Daat. It's opening up your bechira. 100%, you're 100% right. And if we would slow down and really connect from a more conscious perspective, it changes everything. That's why we find, what's the difference between like the tzaddikim and other people? On a certain respect, the tzaddikim, they keep more Torah, they keep more halacha, but it's the way they're keeping it. They're tuning into something. They're tuning into something. When they're working on Kedusha and Tahara, they get something. They get this whole world is working on vibrational frequencies. They get it. They're tapping into something. And what we want is to be re-educated globally into this, to the best of our ability. A lot of people are doing it. So let me rephrase. I need to. Forget everybody else. I need to. If I can just share humbly, we need to up that game of tapping into Torah from a loving, healthy, integrated way. It's very easy to speak about everybody and it's very easy to generalize. Let's speak about us. Let's speak about me. Yes?
I'm having a hard time reconciling this idea that Hashem gifted us an experience of Daat at Har Sinai with the ideas that I have in my mind from my childhood about Har Sinai, that it was loud and there was thunder and lightning and screaming I'm having a hard time understanding how we could say we were having an experience of Daat when really we were like dying from the intense physical experience.
So this is you heard the question? Har Sinai was very loud. So if you look at the Psukim, the Torah was given in silence. It says in the beginning of Har Sinai, it was very loud. It was very loud. The Ropshits are right, that's all nefesh. That's all nefesh. That's recognizing nefesh. People dying. It's recognizing nefesh. But actually when the Torah was given, it was given in silence.
Then how come we asked Moshe to give us the last 9?
Why? Because we realized, listen to this. The Yidden Bnei Israel were dying and they run to Moshe Rabbeinu and Moshe Rabbeinu says, what's up? And they say that we're dying. You have to give us the rest of the luchais. The Ropshitzer says as following, and we mentioned this, I think, in Journey Begins. The Ropshitzer says as following, I don't understand something. Surely death is the closest you can get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So why are they upset they're dying? Because they chap shat, it's not about death. The Vekus is about living here. It's about channeling and living here. So they go to Moshe Rabbeinu and they say to Moshe Rabbeinu, paraphrasing, Moshe Rabbeinu, I chap that death is wonderful, that it's a bechina of deeper connection to you without the levushim. But what we understand and what we chap, it's all about the levushim. So you das, Moshe Rabbeinu, you are das. Moshe Rabbeinu, remember we've written and we've spoken about Moshe Rabbeinu's das. You das have to channel neshama into the world to us as Bnei Israel. But the Torah originally was given with noise, and then it shifted into silence, which the Chumash actually says. So again, it's not be'in on the sugya, but the sugya fits the structure of human experience in the way we are presenting it here.
Also, the thunder straightens your heart.
The thunder strengthens your heart, which is what? Straightens your heart, sorry. What is that? Tikkun HaMidos.
It's preparing you for receiving.
It's Tikkun HaMidos. It's creating you to become a kli. You get rid of all the unwanted noise. It's a bechin of gevura.
So the overwhelming nefesh experience of those first sights and sounds and everything almost created a space where we
Correct.
where we couldn't process everything. We had to go inside and
Correct.
experience it inside.
Correct. Yes.
But it was for the whole world also.
Correct.
The whole Indian.
Yes.
So if the Torah wouldn't have been received, the whole world would have ceased to exist. So
Yep.
it's happening on all kinds of levels.
Yep. But the structure is a structure of what we are working on presenting here. And this is the beauty of this derech, because the more you chap this derech with the definitions, it seems to be, and again, I'm just telling you my own experience, you judge it for yourself. When you start to look into sugyas, whether it's a Rabbi Nachman, whether it's a Gra, or what seems to happen is Chazal becomes alive. You now have, look at that. The experience of this is actually beferish a Chazal. That when one of the Rabbonim in the Gemara would stand next to the door and say, thank you to his nefesh for learning Torah. It's praising the nefesh. It's like there. So many elements of what we are sharing. This is in Shas. This is in Shas. The background of how we're meant to be learning and living Torah should be from what we call a healthy architecture of the soul and a healthy experience. And again, I make sure we don't fool everyone at all. It takes time. It's conversations. It's healing. And it's okay. It's okay. You can't do anything wrong. We're in the conversation and it takes time.
And some thunder.
And some thunder. Yes. To straighten out. Correct. Yes, sir.
The mention of baskol, that if we're silent enough with Tikkun HaMidos, then we potentially can hear, we eventually will be able to hear the baskol. The baskol, as Chazal says, just like a once a day thing, or it's constant?
It's called once a day thing, but the nakuda is, as Rav Sroy Dablitsky showed me a gra, it's constant. Insight is constant. Whatever qualitatively you hear. Depending on your Tikkun HaMidos,
Personal or
it's personal. It could be both. It could be both. So, for example, Rav Leibler and the Sfas Emes speak about how Yisroi and Avram Avinu, they heard a bus call that went out to everybody, but they're the only ones that heard that bus call. They responded to it. So the fact is, as we live from day to day, the quieter we are and the better quality our Tikkun HaMidos and the better quality of how we keep Torah mitzvahs, the more deliberate, the more qualitative the bus call is. And it can happen many a time a day. And we learn to chap the difference. We have people in Chabura that they experience insight. Since we learned this information, worked on it, and worked on doing habata, etc., they experience tremendous insight. Like crazy. And there's a qualitative experience to that insight. And we all can do it. We all can do it because we are children of Balei Ruach HaKodesh, children of prophets. We all can do it. We have it in our DNA. The architecture of the soul. It's there for us. Yes, sir.
Have you seen anywhere that speaks about being in the land of Israel as like a part of, enabling a different level of reception and contact?
100%. The question was, are there sources of the land of Eretz Yisrael being a different sort of receiver for all of this? 100%. 100%. can I choose not to go into it now? But we could speak about it, but yes. Am Yisrael coming to Eretz Yisrael changes our vibrational frequency. Changes our vibrational frequency. So the last paragraph here. Our current state of exile is a microcosm of those wandering years, our personal opportunity to acquire das and make it our own. Our tradition encourages us to become more of a Baal or Balas das, to center our lives, experience, to center our live experience from this place of consciousness. And it gives us tools and vehicles to come to this place. So Torah gives us tools and vehicles. We have a Messiah. This is what we want. And want all our wisdom. Okay, Carl, please. Okay. Yes. You have to come a bit closer for the microphone. Start from the beginning of the sentence. The beginning of the paragraph.
Our current state of exile is the macrocosm of those wandering years, our personal opportunity to acquire das and make it our own. Our tradition encourages us to become more of a Baal or Baalas das, to center our lived experiences from this place of consciousness, and it gives us tools and vehicles to come to this place. This is what we want, and what all of our wisdom and practices leads us towards. It is part of the Geula process. We yearn that one by one we can achieve this state and live from this place.
Okay. So Chevra, we'll carry on next week. We're going to break up into your groups and you're going to share. And just for people online, whoever's listening, you're blessed. You should be a blessing. And take a moment. What resonated with you? What resonated with you? What did you hear today that's going to help you live better, feel better, love more deeply, be more respectful? What did you hear today? What do you take with you? And Be'ezras Hashem, we should mamash go from strength to strength, and we should hear these wisdom teachings, and we should not just daven for Am Yisrael. We should not just think about Am Yisrael, we need to think about humanity. So Be'ezras Hashem, you should have bracha, you should have mazel and hatzlacha, kol tov, kol yeshuas.